Football at 4, powered by InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew DiCecco is with us today. A lot of stuff to get into here. Now, Andrew has a full piece up on his latest at InsideTheBirds.com. He was doing the division previews over there. We talked a little Giants and Washington last week. We're going to get into some Dallas stuff today, but I want to get into some other things as well on this NFC East and some other storylines that are out there as Andrew DiCecco joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as we get ready for Football at 4 on this Tuesday. What's up, Andrew?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
All is well, and as we kind of, we hit that part of the summer where football is typically out of sight, out of mind, but I think with every sport out of sight, out of mind, everybody is still kind of like, football has not left the lexicon. It feels like everybody is just like counting on football to keep some sort of normalcy there. So let's start with that in terms of the training camp. What is the target start for football teams to get back to camp? Is there any sort of date or time that you know of that teams, that fans can kind of look forward to the next step for teams to get out there?
Well, it's slated to kick off late July as of right now, but ideally you would like for them to get to camp probably 2 weeks prior. So they're going to have to really start formulating a plan here as far as protocols and things of that nature. In the coming weeks, I would think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're really going to have to start to hear, what their game plan is moving forward in order for things to start on time. But as of right now, I would say probably, 5 weeks or so from now.
So we're looking like that last week of July, because I know about 2 weeks ago, remember, we were kind of hopeful that they might push the start of training camp up because of all the minicamp stuff they missed. But are we at the point now where we feel that that's far-fetched?
Yeah, right now, like we were talking about, every day you learn something new about COVID because it's such an unknown commodity right now. So, 2 weeks ago we were very optimistic, and now we sit here on June 23rd, and we're kind of there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding it. Given, you saw today that 4 Phillies players tested positive for COVID-19. So there's a lot of new developments that are continuously happening, and I think that when you see, in baseball's case, they're slated to start, I believe it was July 26th. There's a lot that can happen between now and July 26th. And, you hope that as players continue to get these things, that, switching gears to the NFL, that, you kind of, like Jeff was saying, you kind of get it out of your system and hope that, that's kind of, out of your system in time for training camp. But there's still a lot of uncertainty here, as we get closer and closer to training camp.
Yep, and we'll keep our eyes on that, as Andrew just mentioned, and we told you before, a couple more Phillies players. And I think the NFL, Andrew, is anticipating when they have to start their testing. Right now, it's involuntary to my knowledge, right? You don't have to get a test, but once they open it up where you need to take a test, the NFL is probably bracing for positive tests within their community as well. We have seen some. Okay, I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a couple. You saw the NBA today, the Phoenix Suns, as they now are starting their testing. You're going to start to hear more NFL and NBA players on top of what we're already hearing now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you said, right now it's voluntary, but I think it should be mandated. You saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers assistant coaches that tested positive. You saw the various cases with the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans. You're getting 90 guys. If you think of it in these terms, you're getting 90 guys on every team from different parts of the country. So to think that they're not going to have, that there's going to be they're all going to have a clean bill of health going into training camp is very far-fetched to think that way. So I think that you really need, I think that would be one of the protocols that we were talking about. You have to have some sort of testing set up, probably at least 3 times a week, I would think, to ensure that everyone's staying healthy, and then also have quarantine rules in effect, should anything, rise during camp.
And then this today, just a couple of minutes ago, the Athletics' Daniel Kaplan reporting that the NFL will allow teams to set different attendance capacity limits. Attendance will be state by state, county by county. It will not be a one-size-fits-all, which I feel like I'm surprised that the NFL is not making it a uniform policy. In other words, if you're in Kansas City, Missouri, your rules might be more lax than they are right now in Florida, and that's an unfair advantage. I'm surprised that the NFL potentially, if that report is accurate, is going down that road.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That's really that's really troubling to kind of hear that, because like you said, it's, other certain teams will have certain areas will have different, advantages in that case, teams, in Miami and Tampa, and those guys aren't going to have the same advantages that somebody, like you said, in Kansas City, Missouri may have. So that's an interesting tidbit that you just dropped. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of unfolds moving forward. But I have to think that they're going to have to tweak that a little bit, just from an advantage standpoint. Like I was saying, I still stand by what I said on Friday. I still have a hard time thinking that the season begins with fans in the stands.
It is pretty interesting, though, because didn't they say that the head coaches were not allowed in the facilities until every state was open? So the coaches weren't allowed to be in their certain facilities, but yet you're going to allow teams to play in these stadiums based off of, or you're going to allow fans in the stadiums based off of which state says they're allowed to? It just doesn't add up. I don't see how that adds up at all.
Yeah, exactly, Hunter. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's very inconsistent, the report there. And, it's kind of hard to see that fans being in the stands. Like you said, if all the NFL coaches aren't eligible to report, without the different, without clear universal clearances throughout. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. And I really think that as we sit here, 5-6 weeks out, there's still so many questions that remain unanswered.
Now, Bruce Arians was on a podcast mentioning that he might actually quarantine a quarterback, and he'll just have this quarterback stay away from everybody else just in case he's going to have to use him. I mean, at what point is it, okay, this isn't going to work? Because to me, if you're quarantining a quarterback who isn't allowed to be near the team, he's not going to be able to practice with them or be able to execute any sort of plays, but then when you need him on a Sunday, you're going to call him. At that point, to me, it's probably not reasonable to play at all.
Yeah, that's very ineffective. That's an ineffective approach. I mean, that might be the smartest approach, but in terms of being able to keep your top quarterback healthy. But from a game plan perspective, and the day-to-day operations, I don't know if that's feasible to really do. You're not going to be on the same page, like you said, as your players. You're not going to be. You're not going to have the game plan. You're not going to have the game plan down if you're isolated. And like Jeff was saying yesterday, you may reach a point where I believe maybe even you said it yesterday that you're down to like your fourth or fifth string players. It could come down to that, and then at that point, you really need to really take a step back and be like, is it worth even putting that product on the field if you're going to these measures to take these type of precautions?
That's interesting, because then you start to talk about a health risk. Where do you have capable talent even on the field for your product? But I think it was you that I saw somebody had tweeted about how the CFL, how many players are, I figured that was you. How many players in the CFL are actually talented enough to be in the NFL? You might see a scenario where, because of this, you might see a lot of CFL guys or former XFL guys or, guys who are, maybe not thought of to be NFL players getting their opportunity because of this.
Yeah, I replied to a tweet that said that, that 2/3 of the players that are in the CFL have NFL ability.
Now, do you agree with that?
2/3 I think is a little high, but there are a ton of players on practice squads and CFL rosters that have Sunday talent that I think that get overlooked every year because they don't have the household name. But there's me doing the college scouting and really kind of specializing when I kind of dove into journalism as kind of uncovering these hidden gems and being able to see the positives in a lot of players that aren't getting the coverage that they necessarily deserve. There's a ton of talent out there. Now, do I think that's the right approach to kind of saturate the league with those type of players? Should there be an outbreak of COVID, as a worst case scenario? I don't know if that's necessarily the best recourse of action there. At some point, like I was saying, you have to really, when you're looking at all the worst case scenarios, you have to think, does this really make sense to kind of, if we're going to take these measures, does it make sense to kind of have the season unfold,
Yeah, and it's like, I know a lot of people, I think we talked about it the other day, the Ed Werder report that coaches were saying that they don't think the season should start on time. And you wonder if player health was truly the top priority here, specifically in the NFL. Like, I can understand basketball. They're in a bubble. There's still a lot of contact in basketball, but far less than in football. But the bubble situation that basketball can do, that football, quite frankly, I don't know. Do you say to yourself, would they really play with this COVID-19 pandemic going on if health was truly the top priority.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we kind of touched on this last Friday. In order for them to adapt the NBA's bubble concept, that's going to be extremely far-fetched for them to be able to pull that off, given the sheer amount of people that it takes to put on an NFL game every Sunday. So I know Dr. Fauci said that the season would be feasibly impossible to kind of start on time if there wasn't a bubble constructed for NFL teams.
Right. Think about that too. There's 53 guys, 46 active on game day on both sides. You're going over 90 players, just players that are going to be in a place.
And on game day, if the game's home, you have your practice squad players, you have the team physicians, and you have a number of people that are on the sideline in addition to the active players, just the 53-man roster. You can have upwards of 100 people in there. So to be able to pull that off at the NFL level, that's not feasible to me. It just can't happen. So moving forward, they have a few weeks here to kind of really brainstorm on how they're going to be able to pull this off. Because like I said, training camp's probably sitting about 5 weeks away now.
I like that. Hopefully 5 weeks, we get some football back, and we'll see if the health and things have changed. As we know today, some more Phillies players have come down. We saw a couple Phoenix Suns players. You're going to start to see more because the testing is going to start to ramp up, so you will get higher numbers, as we know. All right, let's get into some football here. Football at 4, powered by InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew DiCecco. First off, let's get your take on this Dak Prescott situation in the contract. How much is his decision, in your mind, powered by him signing this franchise tender, which, by the way, he's making pretty good money, 31.4. Not bad if you can get it. How much of it is powered by the coronavirus and him saying, all right, I guess I got to tap out. I don't know where else I'm going to get that kind of money under the current circumstances.
I think the coronavirus plays an enormous factor in him accepting and him doing that, because when you really look at it, like we were saying, every day you get new information. So what's happening today, tomorrow could be a spike, and they decide to shut the season down. Let's say worst case scenario. So to take that money now and get that money up front is probably the best course of action that he could have done. And I think that his decision was probably fueled significantly by the coronavirus.
With this Dak contract that isn't getting signed, obviously the negotiations going back and forth, is a big reason of that the Zeke contract, the Amari Cooper contract. Is somebody going to lose out because of this scenario, whether that's a Michael Gallup, whether that's Dak Prescott himself? I mean, what is causing this? Is it the contracts that are already signed, and who is going to lose out because of it? Do you see a player down the road possibly not staying with Dallas because of this contract?
Yeah, Hunter, you hit the nail on the head. I think it has everything to do with who they decide to pay, and I think they're putting it off as long as possible. That's just the way I kind of assess the situation. And I think what's going to happen, and you're not going to be able to keep everything intact. It's just feasibly impossible. So I think when you look at what the Dallas Cowboys have, you're going to pay the quarterback. So if you believe in Dak Prescott, he's going to be your guy. Amari Cooper, he's a top receiver. You're going to pay him. You have the offensive line. You have all these different pieces, but the one player that's going to be doing a significant chunk of change is Ezekiel Elliott. Now, he's a great player, but running backs, you can't. It's hard to. Their shelf life is so short that it's kind of hard to justify making a significant investment into that position. So I think he would be the guy, to answer your question, Hunter. He would be the guy that they would move forward from to kind of meet the cap.
So let's dig a little deeper into this Cowboys team here with Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. We know the coaching change. I have been very vocal that I thought that this team was clearly the most talented team, maybe not only in the East, but the entire NFC, and that Jason Garrett was literally that bad, and that was their biggest problem. Did they, number one, do you agree with me there, and did they fix it?
I do agree with you there, 100%. I think when you have a team like the Dallas Cowboys that has so much talent on paper, and you're not able to kind of advance that talent and maximize the roster that they put together, you have to eventually start looking at the head coach. And there was many times over the course of the past few seasons where he's made questionable calls that have cost them games and opportunities for a better playoff positioning. So I think that. I should say a divisional standing. So I think that they made a significant upgrade there in Mike McCarthy. He took a year off from the NFL to kind of immerse himself with the analytics and kind of he kind of had an outdated approach with the Green Bay Packers, and I think he took that year off to kind of pick up on some of the new trends and tendencies and kind of he kept Kellen Moore, their offensive coordinator, he's a young-minded, fresh-minded offensive coordinator, and he has a lot of new ideas and concepts, and I think we'll kind of they'll blend together to kind of formulate that offense. There's a lot of things that Mike McCarthy did well. He's going to bring that West Coast approach where they like to dink and dunk their way down the field. He requires his wide receivers to win their one-on-one matchups, whereas Kellen Moore will find a way to scheme them open. So I think that his McCarthy's ideologies didn't always work when he was with the Packers, and I think that Moore can kind of bring that to the table, and I think that it'll kind of seamlessly work together. And then you look at Mike Nolan coming over, the longtime defensive coordinator. He's well versed in many different schemes. I
hope he wears the suit. I hope he brings back the suit.
As you know, he's cut his teeth on the 3-4 alignment. He's got two tackles that he prefers to have bigger defensive tackles, and he has that in Dontari Poe and Gerald McCoy. And he had a lot of success in New Orleans as a linebackers coach, really developing Alex Anzalone and Demario Davis. So when you look at what he's going to do, look at what he has to work with in Dallas with Jalen Smith and Van Der Esch and even the veteran Sean Lee. He's got an embarrassment of riches at that position to kind of work with and can kind of center his defense around. And you're going to see the back end still needs a lot of work. Like Chidobe Awuzie is better served to be, in my opinion, a safety, but he's going to be asked to be the top corner on the Dallas roster. They have a couple rookies there in Trayvon Diggs. They brought back Trayvon Diggs and Reggie Robinson, who I like, but they're not ready to play yet. And they brought back Anthony Brown, who's been very inconsistent, but he's going to have to, by default, be the starter because, with the two rookie corners, the shortened offseason kind of hampers their production over the offseason. So I think that when you look at their secondary, they have a lot of questions there, and their safety position, they added Clinton Dix. He's kind of been a journeyman at this point. He was a former first-round pick, but you really have to wonder why he's been on, I believe this is his fourth team in 3 years. So he does have the ball production, but he's kind of a freelancer, and he takes bad angles at tackles, and he's kind of he has a tendency of letting up big plays. So they upgrade over Jeff Heath, but Clinton Dix is kind of I don't know that he's I think I would consider him more as a marginal upgrade.
Staying with the defense, Van Der Esch is a name. When I saw him get drafted, I didn't think he'd be as good as he has turned out to be to this point. Now, injuries are playing a factor a bit, but, with the Eagles, they don't value the linebacker position as much as maybe the Cowboys do. What do you see out of him when he is healthy? I mean, does he change the game? Is he that important to that defense playing super well?
Yeah, I think he's kind of their difference maker on defense. His ability to read and diagnose plays, roam sideline to sideline, and just his instincts and his ability to kind of his coverage acumen, another aspect of his game where he's kind of able to defend these hybrid tight ends and movable offensive parts that are becoming so prevalent in today's NFL. When you have a player like him that can effectively erase that and just be that run and hit guy and always be in pursuit, I think that he gives Mike Nolan a player that he can kind of continue to build on his linebacker development. So I think he completely changes the whole dynamic of that defense when he's healthy.
Looking at the Dallas Cowboys here, football at 4 with Andrew DiCecco, powered by InsideTheBirds.com. And if you mentioned you agreed with me on the coaching, and I like Nolan, as an interesting name coming in too, because I don't know that their defense was the biggest problem there. It was more some offensive. I think they should have been a better offensive team. But do you look at them right now with the offseason they've had as a team that improved enough personnel-wise?
Well, yes and no. On the defensive side, they lost Byron Jones, and that's their shutdown corner, and they don't have that shutdown corner right now. Like I said, their top corner would be better served to switch to convert to safety. So they're going to have some coverage deficiencies on the back end. As good as they are, at the first and second level, that's going to be a concern. It could ultimately cost them games down the road. I think that they've improved at arguably one of the most important positions as a head coach, but there's still the receiving core is phenomenal, by the way. CeeDee Lamb was my top-rated receiver coming into the draft. So to have him as your third option and playing in the slot, which he's done at Oklahoma, it's going to completely change the whole dynamic of that offense. So I think they've made, significant upgrades. But again, on the back end, that's going to be their ultimate. I think that'll be their detriment.
All right, we will take a look at, of course, many of the questions for all of the teams. We will start our division previews next week, where we'll start to get a little deeper on every team. 2-a-days. We'll be looking at 2 teams every day leading up to Eagles training camp during football at 4. So we'll have plenty to dive into here with the guys. And, of course, DiCecco NFL on Twitter. Give him a follow there and follow his writing at 973ESPN.com. It's Football at 4, powered by InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew, take care, pal.
You got it, guys. Have a great day.
And Andrew DiCecco, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. That Dallas team, I said it many times last year, man. Garrett was so bad. So bad. And that was the difference in the division. His ineptitude made the division attainable, and his ineptitude allowed the Eagles to surpass them. That's unbelievable.